Hello. So, first things first, the NCAA stands for National Collegiate Athletic Association. It's basically the governing body for all sports programs at colleges and universities in the USA. Secondly, over the years, as sports have become more and more popular and more schools have athletics programs, the NCAA has stratified into 3 divisions. Truthfully, most people say division, but class is also technically fine. They're the same thing. Division 1 is the most prestigious of those schools. So D1 is all the big name schools, the ones that have a ton of funding and support for sports, the ones that have like athletics woven into their school pride. Those are often going to be Division 1. In universe, for All for the Game and also in the real world, USC is a Division 1 school. These are the schools where if you are like dead set on being a professional athlete, but you still want to go to college first, these are the schools you're going to try to sign for. These are also the schools that are really heavily into recruiting young athletes. They're the ones that will offer the biggest scholarships for athletics. They like get TV deals the most easily for broadcasting the games. Again, they're just the ones that like are known for having good sports programs, and it kind of becomes this perpetuating cycle of, yeah, they're a good sports program, so they get more good athletes, so they become good, and so they keep getting more good athletes, and it just goes on and on and on. There are a lot of D1 schools. Not all of them are the same level of power, but a lot of the big name ones are. Division 1 schools also expect the most out of their student athletes regarding how much time and energy and effort they need to devote to training and like committing to going to games and all of that. And that's one of the many reasons why it was so controversial until recently about students not being paid if they were athletes at their colleges. Because in addition to generating a ton of money for the schools and not getting any money back for it, they were also expected to give up most of their college life and academics. And essentially, the reason they should be going to college, all for the sake of playing the sport that they're playing. And that's why recently it has become more and more common for schools, especially Division 1 schools, where they're getting a lot more publicity and moving the needle for their athletics, to offer financial incentives and name and image and likeness deals to athletes who are performing so well that they are getting like national attention. So yeah, Division 1 is the like big dogs of college sports, but they're not the only ones. There's also Division 2, which is similar to Division 1, but basically just like less extreme. So they do offer financial scholarships for athletes, but they're not as big of financial packages. They do recruit, but not as heavily. They do sometimes get games televised, but not as much, and they're not as impactful. Division 3, meanwhile, is the bottom of the barrel, and I don't mean to say that there are no good Division 3 athletics, but like there's a reason they're classified the way they are. Division 3 schools typically give out 0 to minimal scholarship money and financial aid for student athletes. They also very rarely recruit at all. They usually just pull from the students who are already enrolled. And while they are still competitive, like you can't really have sports without competition, it's usually not as heated or as relevant to the school identity. Or if it is, it's not like there are some schools where the sports are a bigger deal than the studies or any other part of the college lifestyle. Division 3 schools, that's never going to be the case. For example, the school that Una, Nathan, and I all went to for college was a Division 3 school, and our basketball team actually has a ton of records for like most points scored and like most baskets made by a single person in a single game that like go beyond just Division 3 basketball, but like all of the NCAA. But they're still a Division 3 school because they're playing generally at what is considered a lower level, and they also got no money for doing it. It definitely was not televised, for example. Like, it's just not as big league. The reason I mention the other divisions is because, especially with a new sport like XC, and especially for a school that seems to not be very big or powerful in other sports like Palmetto State And I know it's a fictional school, but even in universe, it seemed to be not really that big of a college. I don't know why it would be classified as a Division I school. Because if it's a Division I school, that means all of the other sports are also Division I. It's kind of an all for nothing thing. If you are Division I basketball, you are also Division I soccer and Division I volleyball. Like, they all kind of go hand in hand. It feels weird to say Palmetto State that has this, like, bare bones XC team, which I think probably means its other sports programs are not that good either. I don't understand why it would be Division I. It is much more common when there is like a younger school or a less experienced school that has not had as much sports history to first be classified as Division II and then move into Division I over time if their abilities and name and recognition and skill set grow. That is clearly not what has happened with Palmetto State. The only real possibility that I can see that makes sense in this situation is that there aren't enough teams nationwide that are actually existing for college XC. But given how meteoric the rise of this sport seems to be in the last few decades, to the point where there is a professional XC league, the U.S. court and everything, like, if it's gotten that seismic of a cultural phenomenon, there have to be more teams where there should be at least 2 different divisions of XC teams. It makes no sense for Palmetto State to be scrapping with the big boys. Now, plot-wise, sure, it makes sense. Realistically, it doesn't. The other thing I want to mention about how unrealistic this all is the fact that Dan and all of the other girls are on the team with the boys. Or conversely, you could look at it as the fact that there are all of the boys on the team for girls. Because this is the big thing for NCAA. They do not have co-ed athletics. They straight up don't. The only athletics program that the NCAA has where it is co-ed is rifle shooting. That is the only time you are ever going to see men and women competing against each other in the same sport. There's just no way that any sport that is getting this push would be co-ed. I'm not saying it shouldn't, I'm saying it wouldn't. Again, in this universe, maybe those policies don't exist, but if so, XC would be the only example of it. So, yeah, that's part 2 of all of the sports trivia and inanities that All for the Game has to offer. There are many more to come, but this is what NCAA Division I means, because that's what this is all about, if I am remembering correctly. Back to you, Una. Good luck.